All right. Good morning, Darren, and thank you for joining us this morning. Let's talk about some of the big stories that have happened in East Africa. Over the course of 3 weeks, we've witnessed a distressing series of shootings from a minister to a blogger, a moneylender, a police officer, a bodyguard, to the FIFA president, to a member of parliament, all involved in fatal incidents. And just recently, a senior police officer narrowly escaped an attempted murder by his own junior who tragically took his own life. Talk to us, Darren. There are many questions begging for answers. What is going on? What is transpiring within the ranks of our men in uniform, and what lies at the root of these troubling events?
It's unfortunate that such events are actually occurring, and we've seen. We now live in a time where we are asking now, who next? Who's going to take his life, or are we even safe around the men in uniform who are holding guns? Because when you look at the reasons as to why they are taking out their lives or taking out their leaders, they're all connected to something what I would call depression or stress. The first instance where we saw a minister being killed, this police officer, Sabiti, was screaming about no pay of money and maybe paid poorly. And this is an army officer charged to, provide security to a senior member of the cabinet. That one went, and then we saw a blogger going, and then just the other day we saw a bodyguard to a FIFA president who is also a member of parliament, and also a husband to a speaker of Uganda, shooting someone. So you cannot be so sure what exactly is happening. However, police has come out, and the security organizations have also come out to say that this could be isolated instances, and because it's not even targeted to mass people, but it looks like it's targeted just to a few people, and it's out of reaction that such instances happen. We saw a senior police officer also shoot a girl of 21 years of age, a university student, just on Wednesday. Unfortunately, she's not dead. She's still in the hospital, but it's coming out of a point of reaction, and people are starting to question whether we have the right people holding the guns, or would you like to put it that are the guns in the hands of the right people, the guns in the hands of people who are sane, who are supposed to be holding guns. Otherwise, instead of using these guns for protection, the guns are now being used to take out people's lives. And the president has also come out to react on the same, calling it a cowardly way of doing things. I mean, a few times he has referred to people who are killing others as pigs. But the most common, maybe the trend that I've seen very common in this has been the suspects have taken out their lives, which are in a way of suicide. The lady who tried to kill the boss took out her life. Another gentleman from a private security company took out his life. The army officer who killed the minister took out his life. So there's a string of suicide alongside an attempt of murder of someone.
Yeah. Pretty, obvious that, mental health assessment needs to be done on security operatives across the continent. Here in Nigeria and, the whole of East Africa, there needs to be better mental health assessment. And, better conversations need to be had about the real health of these persons who we, place our security in their hands. But let's move away from that now. In our next story, Reuters reported that Kenyan government facilities had been hacked by the Chinese. Is there any credible evidence to support the allegations of Chinese hacking into Kenya's key ministries? It has, of course, been dismissed by the Internal Security and National Administration. But what steps is Kenya also taking to strengthen its cybersecurity infrastructure and also protect against cyber threats?
Let me say this before I go to the security question. When you mention about mental health, and fortunately, this is a mental health awareness month. Unfortunately, this is the month that such things are happening. So maybe all officers are going to be taken through a mental checkup before they get back their guns. But quickly going back to Kenya, where there's Reuters came out with a report saying that they have credible evidence and they have documentations from hackers that they have hacked the Kenyan government facilities, which include also the State House, where that is the residence of the president. of Kenya, the internal security organization, and also, ministers' offices, that they have been hacked. And the intention, according to Reuters, the report that they wrote, that the intention is to just find out or to follow the conversation on debt management in Kenya. And probably, according again to Reuters, this is done to understand whether Kenya wants to get more money or not, or how they plan to pay that debt. Now, this theory has been there before. If you remember the allegations that came out that the African Union had been hacked before, and an IT officer one day walking through the offices found an irregularities in terms of data transfer to an IP address that was in China, and I believe that China is actually hacking the AU to find out how they are progressing in their development, also in things like debt management. So it's not new. And also there have been reports before of Pegasus, that is an Israeli company, software
yeah,
that was used to hack people like the prime ministers of Uganda and also officials in Kenya. Now, when you follow a trend like this, most likely it could be true. If Reuters comes out to publish such documents and say, hey, this is the evidence that we have that you're planning to get a $1.6 billion, or this is how much you're serving, or this is how much you plan to get more, then China uses it as they use that information to bring back to table more debt proposals to Kenya, because we know that Kenya is one of the countries that is on the plans of China in terms of the Belt initiative. So with all that information out there, the Kenyan government has come out strongly to deny and said that there's nothing like hacking into their systems. In fact, they have checked and they don't see any irregularities in their system. And they feel like maybe someone is trying to come up and what would be the term? I lose it off. But basically to kind of smear or dirty the name of the Chinese and the Kenyan government. And indeed, the Chinese ambassador came out and denied and said that these are just allegations. They are baseless. They have nothing, no truth in it. And also the spokesperson of the Chinese government, who is in UK right now, also came out and said that that is just an international people coming out to taint the name of the Chinese.
Can we categorically say that someone is trying to sabotage the relationship between Kenya and China?
Pardon?
Can we say that this is maybe the work of some foul player, someone who's playing foul and wants to sabotage the relationship between the Kenyan government and the Chinese government?
Well, that's what China says, okay. And that's what Kenyan government also is saying. But you see, Olivia, we need to be very. We have to note certain events that are very key here. And I'm not saying that it's actually happening, but it's important to understand the events that have been happening around the world, including banning of TikTok in USA. Just this week, I think early this week, when one of the states banned TikTok, alleging that they are collecting data using TikTok to third parties. Now, when you look at all these things, I think it is important for the Kenyan government to come out and maybe reinforce their cybersecurity. And also ensure that such a thing, in case it's happening, that it's not happening. Because sometimes you can't tell that a hacker has actually taken your information. You cannot tell sometimes until things like WikiLeaks start to come out, conversations between government officials start to be published on the internet. And that's when things start to go wrong. So yeah. I think whereas the government of Kenya is coming out to say that there's nothing like that, their securities, the cyber security is reinforced, and they don't expect anything like that. I think it's important for them to pay some attention to the trends.
All right. Darren Bartlett, always interesting hearing your thoughts on these stories and, of course, what's going on in East Africa. We hope that it's a peaceful weekend across the, that region and the Horn of Africa in general. We'll see you again next week.
Happy African Day, Darren.
All right.
I am a very strong person who believes, even when I know that the African Union exists and we have to celebrate the Africa Day, I don't think that we are actually achieving what we need to attain with this whole African Union thing. One day I'll talk about that.
That would have been a great conversation to have yesterday, but we certainly would explore that. Thank you, Darren Bartlett, for your time. It's always great to have you.
Yeah.